Okay, this is your ethics lecture. It's chapter 24 in your patient care book. I've also supplemented it with some other materials, so this lecture will be a little bit more than what's in your book. You are responsible for everything within your book and this PowerPoint. So here are your objectives, so be able to explain the objectives here. And rolling right into your ethics lecture. So what is ethics? So it's the system or code of conduct and morals advocated by an individual or group, or it's the study of conduct or moral judgment. So ethics is defined by the ARRT, which we'll cover here in just a bit. There's biomedical ethics. It's the branch of ethics dealing with dilemmas faced by medical professionals, patients, and other family and friends. And biomedical ethics is actually starting to really take off. There's a lot of pros and cons to everything that we do to patients. So a code of ethics presents a framework of a systematic explanation of beliefs that may lead to an understanding of personal and professional morality and responsibility. And the ARRT does spell that out for us, which is nice. So, professional ethics, composed of efforts and behaviors that society holds as valuable and worthy. So, it's a right to privacy and dignity. So when you're doing a chest x-ray, you're not going to take their shirt off in order to do the x-ray. You're going to make sure that the patient remains modest. So the right to truth, you have to tell the truth. You can't be vague, you can't lie to a doctor or to a patient or to each other. There's justice, benefits, compassion and caring. You have to be honest and loyal, and you need to be self-disciplined with your self-regulation. And we're going to learn more about that as we move forward through the program, that you are self-monitoring. So, professional ethics. A professional ethic is one of several generally accepted criteria that serve to distinguish a profession from other occupations or traits. So, professional ethics deal with the rightness and wrongness of an act or behavior as compared with natural reason. So societal behavior is defined by laws, rules, and regulations, ordinance, and so on, where professional behavior is defined by professional standards of conduct and scope of practice. So within the title of RT, you have a scope of practice of what you can and you can't do. It's kind of like our law. So also, there's the professional standards of conduct in which we expect you as an RT to be at that level. So they expect us to hit that mark and to self-regulate. So here, when we talk about laws, morals, and ethics, as you can see, laws and morals feed into ethics. You are enforced by laws within your community, and you have morals within your family, within yourself, that all go into your ethics. So there's a lot of influences within ethics that you may not even be aware of. So looking at a system-wide here, we have ethics, laws, and morals. And when we look at the ethics on the application, it's a specified group that controls within the group. And the enabling source is your code of ethics. So the law is a political subdivision. It's an outside group. It's legislation, and there's fines and imprisonment if you break the law. And with morals, it's individuals, and it's can be from religious or writings or whatever, and it's usually shame and guilt. Oh, and then I didn't put in there that ethics, you can lose your license. So you got to make sure you follow the code of ethics. So sources of ethical attitudes. So from within science and what you believe in Darwinism or not, the Big Bang Theory, whatever. It could be cultural, it could be religious, it could be your experiences that all influence your attitude towards ethics. Societal behavior. So it's governed by laws and morals. I don't know if you know that. So laws can be limiting and are not comprehensive in controlling all possible behaviors. So laws need reinforcement and authority to do so. So laws can be politically motivated and applied unequally. Morals are generally accepted customs of rights of living and conduct and an individual practice in relation to these customs. So your morals and your values come into play. with your professional behavior, society expects a certain level. So within the profession, though it is a collective members to generate its own statement of acceptable and unacceptable behavior. So within the ASRT, they came up with the ARRT, working together these behaviors. It is defined by two distinct documents, so established norms for professional conduct. The radiologic science professionals must know the ethical and professional standards for the profession. So you are responsible for this. So we have the ARRT Code of Ethics. And your ARRT is your American Registry of Radiologic Technology. It's composed of two parts, and we will look at these when we're in class in a few weeks. So Part A deals with behaviors a professional should aspire to achieve, and B deals with the mandatory rules of accepted professional conduct. Very strict. So here's your ASRT Code of Ethics, and there are 10 of them, and we've discussed this over the summer, but we'll also be talking about it, and you'll be looking at this when you're doing your legal paper. I want you to take the ARRT ones here, so your Code of Ethics, and I want you to take the ASRT. They're basically the same, but take these and implement them into your paper. So the ARRT Code of Ethics, so professional within the medical imaging must be familiar with these codes. You establish professional norms of conduct, and ethical codes are typically static and slow to change in order to reflect change in societal trends and values. So ethical code rely heavily on behaviors that reflect professional etiquette and are respectful of human values. So a code of ethics can be too narrow and confining in defining acceptable behaviors in all situations. So there are exceptions to this, but as long as you're doing what is right for the patient, it's usually an accepted. So professional etiquette versus professional ethic. So all professional decisions in RADT and other healthcare practices involve a consideration of human values. Unethical behavior that is clearly wrong can be defined as ethical outrage. So if you're doing something that you're not supposed to, you can be ethical outrage. Ethical dilemmas occur when the correct choice is not clear and personal values may be in conflict. So ethical dilemmas require ethical analysis. So if you work in a blood lab and you have a Jewish person who is going to die if they don't get a blood transfusion and they refuse the blood transfusion, this could be a big ethical dilemma because the patient's going to die and you put in that you're going to do everything you can to help save the patient, but yet this patient is refusing. So it gets really tricky, especially when you're dealing with children, what the parent is authorizing versus what is ethically right. Okay, so critical thinking. So purposeful, self-regulatory judgment that results in interpretation, analysis, evaluation, and interference. So critical thinking allows the imaging professional to perform the following. So you interpret and analyze ethical theories and models. You evaluate applications of those theories and models to a given situation, and you plan appropriately a course of action. Not that we consciously do this, but subconsciously this is the process that you should be going through when you're critically thinking. So, values, quantities or standards that are desirable or worthy of esteem. So ethical questions usually involve conflicts between values. So 3 basic groups of values. So there's personal values, cultural values, and professional values. So within the personal values, so it's belief and attitudes that provide a foundation or behavior and the way an individual experiences life. So cultural values specific to a person or culture, and professional values, a general attribute prized by a professional group. So professionalism is an awareness of the conduct, aims, and quality defining a given profession. So consequentialism evaluates the good of an activity by assessing whether immediate harm is balanced with future benefit. So deontology-based decisions on individual motives and morals rather than consequences. So there's a difference there. Make sure you know the difference. And virtue ethics incorporates elements of consequentialism and deontology to provide a more holistic approach in solving ethical dilemmas. So an example of consequentialism, an imaging technologist assists in triage of a trauma patient, would assign services to the most critically injured patient, last to serve the greater number of less injured patients. So, yikes. All right, ethical models. So you have the engineering model. So it identifies the healthcare provider as a scientist concerned with facts and defines a patient as a condition or a procedure. The Priestley model is the caregiver acts in an omniscient or paternalistic role, making decisions for patients rather than with patients. So that is a tough one when a doctor just dictates what's going to happen instead of having both parties making a mutual decision. The collegial model is a more cooperative method of providing healthcare involving sharing, trusting, and pursuing of common goals, so that's good. Contractual model defines healthcare as a business relationship between the provider and the patient, which it really is. And the conventional model, I cannot say that word, an agreement between the patient and the healthcare provider, often grounded in traditional values and goals. So the Dowd model develops to aid ethical problem solving for imaging professionals, and you can see in box 1.3, and I think 1.3 is actually in a different book. So if you want to see that box, I will be more than happy to provide it for you. So models for ethical decision making in healthcare broadly describe different types of interactions with patients. They provide frameworks for understanding expectations and responsibilities. So these models are just different models that is good to be aware of. So the goal is to have a collegial yet contractual model that you're working with. So what you want to do when you're looking at an ethical dilemma is identify the problem. So what is causing this ethical dilemma that you're having? Develop alternative solutions, select the best solution, and defend the selection. So you need to look, see what the problem is, find alternatives, find the best one, and I wouldn't say go to your death defending it, but you should definitely state why. So if a doctor is doing something that you don't agree with to a patient, you should stand up and ask questions. So Dowd problem solving model, so assess the problem, isolate the issues, so I like that. Analyze the data, so that requires that you have actually some research and some data. Develop a plan of action, institute the plan, and analysis of the outcome. So that's actually looking back at all of it and see how the outcome turned out. So the Dowd problem-solving model is really good if you have time. All right, so solving ethical dilemmas continued here. So explanation of the problem, you need clarification, you need determination of all the alternatives, and then you have to make a decision. So when we are looking at patient care and doing what's right and what's wrong, this is your moral principle versus your aspiration. So benefits is bringing out about good. So performing actions that benefit others. So benefit, okay? Decide and act ways to benefit the patient. So non-maleficence, so preventing harm. Above all, do no harm. Never perform or allow acts that may harm the patient. So autonomy. I'm having a hard time today. And I just had one cup of coffee. I don't understand. Acting with professional self-reliance. So performing actions that respect the independence of others. The patient must decide what is done to his or her own person. So the patient has a right to decide what actions are allowed and not allowed on their own body. So veracity is telling the truth. So being truthful is right. Telling the truth is expected within our profession. Fidelity is being faithful, performing acts that observe, there's that word again, convalent, or promise is right. So be faithful. Justice, so is acting with fairness and equality, performing acts that ensure the fair distribution of goods and harm are right. So be fair. So you need to know what these are, and you have to be able to give some kind of quick little synopsis on what it is. So be able to say benefits is, and then performing actions that benefit others. All right. So here's your consequentialism, ethical school of thought in which decisions are based. Immediate, hard is balanced with future benefit. So although it's hard now, in the future it'll be better for the patient. So I always put this in the patient's perspective. So non-consequentialism, so actions and self rather than consequences determine the worth of actions. So actions are right or wrong according to the morality of the acts themselves. So different way of defining those two words. So social contracts, relationships that exist when two mutually dependent groups in a society recognize certain expectations of each other and conduct their affairs accordingly. So right-based ethics is the belief that individual rights provide the vital protection of life, liberty, expression, and property. So principle-based ethics are moral-based principles as a basis for defending a chosen path of action in resolving an ethical dilemma, and virtue-based ethics is emphasizing the agents who perform actions and making choices, characters, and virtue from framework of this ethical theory. So here's benefits again: active doing good, active promotion of goodness, kindness, and charity. Non-maleficence is ethical principle that provides high value on avoiding harm to others. Autonomy, person's self-reliance, independence, liberty, rights of privacy, freedom. Veracity, duty to tell the truth and avoid deception. Fidelity is strict observation of promises or duty, loyal and faithfulness to others, and justice, equitable, fair or just conduct in dealing with others. So there's those definitions again. So professional relationships towards patients and towards physicians and towards other healthcare professionals. So toward patients, it's maintaining patients' faithfulness and maintaining patients' confidentiality. Really, really important. We're going to get into HIPAA here in the next week or two, and it's vital that you follow HIPAA. Towards patients, your relationship with physicians will be one of the most important aspects of your professional practice. So you have to be professional with the doctors in which you're working with. So there's referring doctors that are referring patients to you, and the physicians, which are radiologists that are going to be reading your studies. And you have to be able to communicate with them and get along with them. Although at times it's really hard, but you still have to do it as part of your professional ethics. So toward other healthcare professionals, a positive relationship towards coworkers or other healthcare personnel will prove to be rewarding and worthwhile. Your highest priority should be the patient and doing what's right for them always. So the hard part is a nurse that is giving you a hard time and remaining professional for that patient. So how do you avoid ethical conflicts? This is really hard. Please, in clinic, do not talk about religion, politics, relationships. So try to avoid all of that if possible. While you're a student, at least, if something gets kind of dicey, just excuse yourself. Do not get involved. Do not get a part of it. There's been some students that have, and it has not turned out well. So understand that in some situations it is unavoidable. So the one thing I want you to do is just say, you know what, I'm not happy where this is going. I'm going to excuse myself. Just say, you know what, I really need to go to the restroom, and just get out of the situation. You want to get away from that as quickly as possible. So clearly understand the right thing to do and the wrong thing to do. Do not engage. As a student, do not engage. The hardest thing about being a student is being humble. And let me tell you, it is the most humbling thing you're going to do is to just sit there and nod your head and say yes whenever someone asks you to do something, yes. And if someone says something that you absolutely do not agree with, just smile and nod your head and walk away. Do not engage. Do not get involved. You're a student and they are training you. And whether you like them or not, you have to put on a smile and get out there every day and work with this person. So do not cause any rift between you and someone else that you're working with. Even a tech aide. I had a technologist student technologists giving the tech aide a hard time. I walked in, I about came out of my shoes. You are to be respectful to the janitor, to the CEO. They should all be treated the same, absolutely the same. So choosing the right thing to do is typically just excusing yourself from the situation. If you're unsure what to do, you can contact Jill or I, your clinical instructor, and just say, oh my gosh, I'm not sure what to do. This person keeps talking to me and giving me a hard time because I'm Catholic, or because I'm black, or because I'm white, or because I wear these shoes, or whatever. So they will help you, okay? So they're not there to bring you down, they're there to make sure that you get your proper education, okay? So you need to research the professional standards of conduct and ethical principles, and that is your guide moving forward, okay? So in conclusion, there's a couple things. So ethics is a combination of societal laws and values. Professional ethics is specific to an occupation, is defined by members of the profession at many levels. So ethical dilemmas naturally occur and require thorough analysis, and ethical radiologic science professionals must possess a keen sense of the role that human values can play in resolving ethical dilemmas that arise in professional practice, both in your dealings with patients and their interactions, physicians, and other healthcare. So that pretty much sums up your ethical lecture. There's a lot of information in here. There's a lot of definitions. Make sure you go to the front of your chapter, and it has a bunch of definitions for you. Make sure that you do flashcards or whatever you need to do to memorize all of those. Okay, thank you.